All right, so Vitaliy, thanks so much for doing this. Right from the beginning, I want to come clean about something because more than a year ago, you sent me a PDF, which was your upcoming book, and asked for my feedback. And I read it, and honestly, I was so confused about what category to put the book in my mind. Like, I was paralyzed, and I didn't do anything. And I feel I didn't give feedback, basically, and I feel really bad about that. So, I want to let you know this book is an excellent book, first of all. And second of all, I bought, I think, 5 copies so far to give out. It does defy category, but that is a feature, not a bug. So if you're watching this, soul in the game, everybody has a life, and this is about life. It's a bit of I don't want to say self-help. It's more than a self-help book. It's a philosophy book. It's about your family, your history. I really enjoy it. So I just wanted to say that off the bat.
Thank you, James. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so now, speaking of family, you're my go-to person for this question. My 14-year-old son, Benjamin, he's saved up some money, and he's interested in investing it. I could give him advice because I'm an investor, but he's at the age where he's too cool for me. If you got someone, whether it's my son, Benjamin, or someone else who says, I have some money now, I'm looking to build a portfolio, how would you broadly advise them? Besides going to IMA, your business.
So my suggestion would be, if you are looking to learn investing, and this is not take as much money as you can afford to lose, and look at that as your tuition.
Yeah.
And then don't look to build a portfolio. But what you want to do, you want to just own as many companies as you can do a good job analyzing well. Okay, and you, especially if you're in the beginning, you have another job or something, you probably can't analyze. Like, we have a portfolio of 25 stocks. That's my job, and I have
you're doing all day long, and it's your team.
Exactly, and I have a team for this. A normal person, especially has a job or who goes to school, doesn't have the time for this.
Yeah.
So I would just do a few companies, knowing that this is not a diversified portfolio. This is your learning tuition. That's point number 1. Point number 2, make sure you're doing actually real buying and selling, not on paper, because psychology only kicks in investing when you actually commit the capital, when you buy when you buy the stock.
Every time I paper traded, after a few weeks, I lose interest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's not real. And then another point that's very, very important is that, like, if what is he interested in? Like video games?
He likes video games. Yeah, he likes some sports.
So, like, whenever you look for companies that lie somewhat adjacent to your interests in the beginning, because when you analyze companies, you kind of build in the world. You're trying, if he tries to analyze biopharmaceutical companies and he never even took a chemistry class, probably going to be difficult. Yeah. If he tries to analyze Electronic Arts or Activision or whatever, and he spend thousands of hours playing video games, he is going to have a lot more insights than I would, for instance. Yeah. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, he followed the Fortnite Apple the lawsuit, with Apple Store.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, so shifting gears then, Warren Buffett said, I think in 2013 or 2014, that all the cigar butt investing, all the cigar butts are gone. Yeah. And obviously the nets were gone before those. Yeah. Where is the alpha? I mean, there's my view is as long as there's cognitive bias, cognitive error in investing, there's always going to be exploitable alpha. Where do you see it these days?
I think being more rational than the rest of the pack, that you will have some alpha there. Also, having longer time horizon.
Yep.
Because I think the average hedge fund has a time horizon probably 3 to 6 months, and so does average mutual fund. Yep. So if you have a longer time horizon, that's another source of alpha. And I think being more rational than the rest of the. So it's when you're attacked by the bear.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to be.
You don't.
You outrun the slower guy. Yeah,
exactly. It's the same thing. Yes.
Yeah, economics is a social science, and
yeah.
So we compete in a relative sense, not an absolute sense.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great point. Let me shift gears to banks. I think you've mentioned, if I recall correctly, you think all banks we just have FDI insurance for everything because we kind of already de facto have that. I mean, the government is not going to let depositors go belly up. Arguably, the Fed, we could also just have deposits at the Fed. It could be like a utility. What do you think about that? And then my bonus question is, do we need so many small banks? We used to have 15,000 banks in the US in the early 1980s. We still have 4,200 now. England has 300 something. Japan has 189. Most other countries have far fewer banks. Is that a good thing or a bad thing from the American? I mean, should we just let these small banks go under? Should we consolidate them? Like, what's the best way to have banking done in the US?
Okay. So number one, and I'm not 100% sure about this, but if the Federal Reserve start, you're talking about digital dollars then.
Yeah,
Yes.
I guess so. It would become
so
that.
Which is,
Yeah.
I'm so against that because suddenly the government knows every single transaction you make, and I want to.
You've got a lot to hide.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry.
I'm saying you have a lot. I don't have. It's just creepy.
No,
though, right?
but
It's
it's
creepy.
creepy. It is
Yeah.
creepy. That's point number one. Point number two, we have a fractional reserve banking system, and to have so that when you have a fractional reserve banking system, you basically have to have trust.
Yeah.
And if the trust is very fragile, if it goes away, the whole system falls apart. Why? Because if everybody goes to the bank today and says, "I want my deposits back," we're not going to have an economy, right? So my point is this. And by the way, I'm a libertarian, so I feel like we should allow companies to fail.
Yeah.
But I would argue there is a huge difference between the bond holders, equity holders, and depositors. And the difference is this: equity holders, when analyzed, they get to reap the rewards of appreciation. Bond holders get less reward, because but they still get a reward.
Yeah.
And professionals can do that. When as depositors, you want them to be mindless. So that the first two groups, equity holders and bond holders, you want them to be mindful. Depositors, you want them to be mindless.
You don't want them doing due diligence on the bank.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because first of all, can you imagine? So that every grandmother has to be now
charity business. Yes.
How much time we're going to be wasting? How much time we're going to be wasting on doing analysis? Number one. Number two, I would argue the reason we should just have no limits for the FDIC insurance, because we should just charge proportionately to the size of the balances. So let's just get paid for it. I'm not saying it should not be freebie.
Yeah.
No, let's banks charge for that, or whatever, and so that way it's going to be, if you have I'll give you an example, and I wrote about this. We had money at Silicon Valley Bank without having money at Silicon Valley Bank.
I remember this. Yeah.
Because we used the company Bill.com to send payments from our bank, which was Vector Bank, to another institution, which was not Silicon Valley. Bill.com, we did not even know this, used Silicon Valley Bank. So suddenly, if Silicon Valley, and we had hundreds of thousands of dollars so in the way Bill.com works, I write a check, they put the money in Silicon Valley Bank, they make a little bit of money on the float, and that's how they made money. If Silicon Valley Bank went back, by the way, I'm saying this not because what I'm about to say was not shaped by that experience. I had that. I felt this way before I found out I actually had money with Silicon Valley Bank, but we would have lost a few $100,000 without really taking any risk or being compensated for that risk, right? Because if you think about depositors, especially the ones that earn no interest, they don't really get compensated for the risk they take.
Yeah.
So I think banks should be regulated as utilities. Now, about how many banks? This is a very interesting point. So today, 80% of commercial loans are originated by small banks, small and regional banks.
Yep.
Okay, half of consumer loans originated by small banks.
Small and regional banks.
Yeah. So I think the big difference between there's geographical differences between Japan, Canada, and in other countries, and like you have small banks in little towns that the JP Morgan does not even know how to spell. So I think there is absolutely no reason why we can't have small banks. It's just right now what we created a kind of a dual system, too big to fail, those banks, and they have a lot of little banks. So So you have a double standards. So because we basically said if you're JP Morgan, we'll bail you out. We're going to regulate the hell out of you, and you can afford it because you have a lot more income. You can cover a lot more fixed costs. But I think our system actually kind of works. It just we need to we just need better regulation. We need better regulation, and we just have a bigger FDIC insurance and charge for that. And therefore, if Silicon Valley Bank goes bankrupt, and equity holders and bond holders get wiped out, so be it. Just make sure that deposits don't get wiped out, and whatever FDIC contributes to it, make sure your premiums are good enough to cover that. That's all.
Makes sense. I'm not the guest, but I would add we need better accounting, because some of the accounting rules around HTM, held to maturity, allowed banks like Silicon Valley to do certain things that were riskier. That I think if they had been more transparent, that they wouldn't have taken some of those actions.
So what's kind of interesting? I was thinking about it. And this is a human psyche. We always fight the last war. Okay,
Totally.
Our regulation was designed to fight what? Bad loans.
The problem that just happened last time.
Bad loans, right?
Yeah.
This time around, a lot
It's
of
credit quality. Now it's interest rate risk, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now whatever regulation they come up with, they'll be fighting this war, and there'll be something else.
The new thing comes up. Yeah.
So I think we also need smart regulation.
No problem.
If it's possible. Yeah.
So Vitaliy, I know you got to go in a minute. Just last question, Jim Cramer style. Any stocks or sectors that are on your radar, especially these days?
It's kind of interesting. I think if you asked me a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I would have said defense stocks. At the time, you can actually identify a sector. Today, it's much more difficult because I think everything became more expensive. So I think this is the time where you just kind of just being stock picker. Like I can't.
A stock sniper. Really, precise.
Stock sniper becoming more and more important. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Vitaliy Katsenelson, CEO of Investment Management Associates and Stock Sniper. Thanks so much for joining us. Pleasure
James,
as always.
So much.
And keep writing books like this.
Thank you,
Thank
James.
you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Take care now. Thanks.